What's happening, Wargamers? Welcome to another battle report from Aegis Brand Studios for Marvel Crisis Protocol. I'm joined by a whole host of mooks today. You guys know Jason from Zjrox Wargaming. Well, he has his partner in crime, Reed, with him today. And then we have another local guy, Alex, who is he is also here. Yes. You'll notice that we only have the one mic set up at the moment, so sometimes there might be some audio things. But we are bringing today separation anxiety. I've been wanting to do something like this for a little while. These guys have all been game for it. So we have all picked up some teams. We got some Guardians, we got some Web Warriors, some Hellfire Club, and some Weapon X. So we're just going to go have a fun free-for-all brawl in this one. And yeah, just generally have some fun with it. And remember, if you guys want to support the channel, check out that Patreon link for patreon.com/AegisBrandStudios. Helps out the channel, keeps the lights on, and just keeps these videos coming. Anyway, let's get rolling.
Let's do it.
First off, guys, sorry for the narration on this one. We had some audio problems here, but we have everyone set up. We have the Hellfire Club by Reed. We have the Guardians of the Galaxy by Jason over here. My own Web Warriors kicking around in this corner with the Weapon X program by Alex. Everything is set up. We are ready to go. We have our 4 canisters put up on the table. We have our Clintar beacon right in the dead center of that. So the way everything's going to work is we score a point for securing a Clintar or for canister. We get a point for each symbiote we have, and we score additional points for every symbiote we have if we happen to be possessing the Clintar beacon. So lots of ways to score points here, and then the symbiotes themselves are going to add some interesting elements to the game as we pick them up and gain some cool powers. So obviously going to try and remember this as best we can, but we have Reed kicking us off here, and he just starts off with Rogue moving towards that bottommost symbiote here. Just gets her into a great position to start scoring, get some extra powers available to her. So every time you interact with the canister, we will draw from the top of the deck to find out what exactly they get. Interacting is free in this particular instance, which is kind of cool. And she starts off with Toxin. Unfortunately, I can't quite remember the exact abilities on this one. I believe this one is poison off every attack, and I think that's not damage reduction. I can't remember what the other part of Toxin is, but it is a rather solid card for Rogue to have. It just gives her a nice little bit of utility as we move forward in the game. Second up, we have Jason with his Guardians of the Galaxy, and he actually just starts off with Groot moving towards the one of the side symbiotes here, just to go and once again secure some points. Gets into the building here because that is a nice big size 4 piece of terrain, so he's going to get some cover from it, and he grabs himself the Mayhem symbiote here. So this one's kind of a cool one. Gives them a leap, and then it gives them an additional power every turn. So it just gives Groot an extra little bit of mobility, which is really kind of cool. Next up, we got the Web Warriors. I just start off with Gwen here, just moving her up to grab a symbiote from the center. And unfortunately, the symbiote I grab is one that basically just gives her a long move. And stealth. The stealth is, oh wait, no, maybe it's not the long move. She gets the stealth. I can't remember what the other part of it is, but she does get that stealth, which protects her a little bit. And then just moving over to go over and secure the beacon. I would pick it up, but unfortunately you take 3 damage if you have the beacon and you don't make an attack. Lastly, we go over to Alex with his Weapon X, and he starts off with a bold move by Sabretooth, drawing to see what symbiote he can grab from this canister right here. So you can see that all of us are just kind of jockeying for position right now, just trying to figure out the best way to move forward in the game. And he ends up with Carnage, which has a free Paint the Town Red, which is a second attack, which is always really good to have here. And all his attacks cause bleed. So on someone as violent as Sabretooth, that is actually a really solid card. Moving back around the rotation, we are back to Reed, and he goes with Domino. And throughout the course of this game, Domino had a very interesting role to play in this game. You'll see over the course of it, but she picks up a very good symbiote here. Basically, she gets the Riot, which gives her an additional 2 attack dice whenever she attacks, which is really kind of the big one. I can't remember what the other innate ability does here. Yeah, sorry about that. Unfortunately, as I record this, I don't have the best view of the screen itself. I think it's aggressive is the other ability she has. So with a rapid fire, that instantly becomes dangerous. Back to Jason, and Valkyrie is going to go over and deal with Sabretooth Apex Predator here. Just getting in there, spending 2 on the charge, I believe it is, just so she can get some early attacks in. So just grabbing, doing a 5 dice strike against Sabretooth. Getting a really solid bevy of hits so far, with Sabretooth not really rolling anything in defense, which definitely puts him on a back end right off the hop, giving Valkyrie lots of power to play with, and then letting her interact and grabbing Sleeper, which is a Mystic attack and Flight as the innate ability here. So not great, but she's going up against the Weapon X program. Mystic attacks are always well worth it over there. So just kind of taking gauge of the situation. Jason double checks the size of the booth there, which we usually count as size 2. And at this point, I believe, if I recall correctly, he is contemplating just tossing it at Sabretooth just to cause a little bit of extra damage. Yeah, there it is. So he throws the booth at Sabretooth, who then dodges with his 4 physical defense, and once again, just doesn't really do a lot there. So at this point, like, Sabretooth is already, if I recall correctly, taking like 5 or 6 damage. Like, he is hurting. Anyway, moving back to the Web Warriors, we're going to go with Pete and the Amazing Spider-Man. Going to rock up there, going to grab a symbiote out of there. This is the one where I grabbed the long moving one. Yeah, this is Mania. Long move for Spidey, which really, not needed at all. Not a very good one at all. So what we're going to do is we're actually just going to move down to this other canister and try our luck down there, which unfortunately it's going to force us to basically drop a symbiote. And I think we forget to actually put the symbiote on the ground here. I don't recall. But we basically, we draw it. We figure out everything that's going on. We also had to take a moment here to make sure we got all the mechanics right here. And just basically make sure we're doing the correct thing. So yeah, we do actually drop the symbiote on the ground. It's the player to the left that always drops it. So Jason's just putting Mania somewhere. And one of the things we can do here is you can always kind of drop it within range 1 of another character and force them to basically have the 2 symbiotes fight, at which point there is a chance that they can keep the same symbiote or draw a new one here. And this way we're just trying to force Riot off of what's her name, Domino, and in this case she draws a new one, Agony, so she doesn't have all those extra dice. Now I believe it's damage reduction that she has instead, which will prove to be a big impact in this game. Actually, she was surprisingly resilient through a lot of it, but as part of it, she takes a damage and she gains a power as well. And then Spidey draws his, and he ends up getting the fusion gun, or the energy gun. So this is just basically a card item that gives him an additional attack, which is a beam 5 dice attack. Back to Weapon X, and Alex decides to move over with X-23 just to go support Sabretooth against Valkyrie after the shellacking that he took very early on. Unfortunately, no charge though, and not enough power to do her range 3 attack, so she just kind of gets in there and checks out what symbiote she's going to be grabbing. And she gets Scream, which gives her an energy attack and extra defense dice against energy attacks. So nothing too big or fancy, but she is up against Guardians over there, so extra dice against energy, always worthwhile. So we move to the last activation of Reed's and his Hellfire Club, and Emma is just going to go over and basically get into that little scrum over there as well, just kind of support the rest of her team, creating a little Hellfire Club castle down here. Just getting up onto the terrain to get some cover, and grabbing a symbiote, which is Venom. So we're moving through the deck pretty quickly. Like at this point, when we have, what is it, 3, 6, 9. When we have 13 characters on the table, we move through the symbiotes really quickly. In this case, and everyone is getting some extra powers quite fast. Just surveying everything, figuring out what to do here. The unfortunate thing is we lose a lot of banter with it this way, so it's a shame that the audio got messed up the way it did. So we have the Guardians going with Star-Lord up next, and just going over to try and deal with this Weapon X issue, especially considering Sabretooth is so close to being defeated. So just throwing some 5 dice element guns, or is it the element guns? Yeah, element guns at Sabretooth there. Getting 3 successes with a wild, and Sabretooth unfortunately continuing his rather unimpressive rolls. Unfortunately does finally go down and get dazed, but it does leave Star-Lord outside of range of being able to get that canister, which means it is going to be contested instead of the Guardians scoring all the points. It does also put down a symbiote, which, as you can see here, Reed is just placing it next to Valkyrie to push the one symbiote off here and put some damage onto her. And you'll notice we do this quite a bit in this game. We try to get some extra little ping damage into characters by throwing symbionts down on them, and just create some extra havoc that way. So in this case, she now has the anti-venom, which is basically it's a heal on a stick. So she's a little bit harder to take down if she has the opportunity to take advantage of that symbiote. And we get rid of that, and that is going to end the Guardian's turn. So we move back to the Web Warriors. Miles is all that's left. He just rocks on up, and now contesting that point there. And we grab the other gun. Now you notice throughout the course of the game here, we didn't really quite figure out if the guns get dropped or not, so the Web Warriors just kind of hold on to them for the majority of the game here. Whether or not it's a big deal, it's hard to say. And then Logan taking his final activation. He's just going to rock up and grab that canister right there. Basically just jockeying for position, trying to just get into a good place. And we have Lasher here, which is just it's a very basic physical attack. Nothing too fancy with it. Nothing that Logan really particularly cares for, as it were. That brings us basically to the end of Logan's turn, which brings us to the very last activation, which is going to be Rocket and the Guardians of the Galaxy. And he just walks on up and goes to grab the canister. So it's jockeying for points at the moment instead of rather than going for a lot of kills this early on. And he has Rays. And I'm glad that we're at least showing the cards on here, because when it's on a bigger screen, you guys should be able to actually read what is on the cards here. I'm trying to do a lot of this by memory, unfortunately, and all my resources are not with me while I'm doing this recording, because this was not an anticipated thing for me, so I didn't have everything kicking around. But that does pretty much bring us to the end of the round. And we got the Web Warriors scoring 1 point. We got the Guardians scoring, I believe, 4 points. Weapon X, I think, is only scoring 3 points. And I think Hellfire Club is scoring 4 points as well. I think that's where everything starts off here. Once again, unfortunately, because I wasn't expecting the audio to go down. This was a very unanticipated project, so I'm trying to do a lot of this based on what we have on here and by memory. But that brings us to the end of round 1. Moving into round 2, the order of operations or order of activations is staying pretty much the same at the moment, simply because nobody really did anything of real note. But right off the hop, we have Reed starting off with the Hellfire Club, checking some distances, being reminded that Gwen currently does have stealth on account of her symbiote. So instead, takes a look at Amazing Spider-Man, who is right in front of her, and decides to throw some dice. So just got 5 dice with some really solid amount of successes and none from Spidey. And because of Emma's ability, no rerolls are kicking around here, which is really kind of annoying. I think that was one of her symbiote things that kept the rerolls going, which was very, very impactful, which means that Spidey just right off the hop took a whole bunch of damage, and then did get the, I believe, got the throw trigger on top of everything as well. So it's probably about this time that I'm lamenting my usual use of Amazing Spider-Man. But Emma has a whole bunch of power kicking around as well. So she does throw a hands off onto Spidey as well, and once again gets a fairly decent set of results. To my very unimpressive set of results, which is enough to both throw Spidey before the damage is dealt, and on top of all that, basically daze him. So knocking out my potent 5 threat right off the hop. So yeah, no good there. Which really puts me at in a bit of a dilemma with what to do following all that. So usually around this time, it's probably a little bit of the banter, figuring out what's going on. So I apologize for filling the airwaves with just my stuff here. We got Miles going and just rolling on up. And getting, because he's got that wonderful beam attack, he's just going to get in there and throw a whole bunch. Well, I think he starts with a web swing into a kick and going into Domino, I believe it is, just dealing a good chunk of damage to Domino, who does unfortunately have that pay 1 power damage reduce at the moment, which again makes her disturbingly durable in this one. Very, very hard to take her down, especially when she's also paying power to turn skulls into crits whenever available in that one. And then, of course, going to follow up with a second attack. This one is the attack from the gun itself. And of course, if I roll the right triggers, which I believe is a crit wild, I will also force symbiotes to drop. But as you can see, I do not get the crit wilds, and my crits don't explode against Domino. So just got some decent damage in there. Unfortunately, I don't remember the order in which everything is getting rolled. Whether or not it was Emma into Rogue into Domino, but all in all, it is a really solid attack. I do put a good chunk of damage onto all 3 of Reed's characters here, and I am able to kind of soften them up a little bit. So there we go. There's another attack for 5 more damage. This one not against Domino, because obviously I rolled the critical result there. Doing some good chunks of damage, and then yeah, it looks like we actually dazed someone here, and we get to toss down the symbiote. I wish I could remember whose it was. But we move the symbiote over, force Domino to pick it up, cause her to take a little bit of extra damage, and get a new symbiote. Lots of symbiote shifting happens in this particular game, as we just try to jockey for the best position and see who can come out on top with this one. So we got this, trying to figure out what the random one is going to be, and Reed ends up pulling, which is I think it's the same one that Domino already had, but still an extra point of damage onto her is never a bad thing. But that pretty much ends Miles' turn. Not much else he can really do there. He doesn't have power to do anything else, nor could he do anything else at this point anyway. So we move on to the I believe it's the Weapon X program. I don't quite remember here. So we got Scorn being pulled. Trying to remember who was doing this at this point. Again, one of the problems with having to do the audio after that. Yeah, so this was Weapon X. So I think this is Sabretooth going at this point, because he has been dazed. He's got a whole bunch of power to play around with at this point, and with some good rolls, he can definitely put some hurt onto the Guardians of the Galaxy over here. And during this whole time, like, it was always a very difficult thing figuring out who to attack, who to put pressure onto, because I mean the nature of the game could change right on the drop of a hat. So here we go. Sabretooth adding some extra dice to his attack, going into, I think it's Star-Lord actually. And yes, here's the plucky attitude. So Star-Lord goes and rolls some more, gets at least one more success here, but still a whole bunch of damage. Although a lot of skulls as well. Like Alex had a rough time with his rolls in this particular game. He had a lot of skulls, a lot of shields very early on, which made it very difficult for him to get some momentum. But there we go. So Sabretooth ends up getting his place within range of Star-Lord there. Gives him some action economy, which allows him to go hard into Star-Lord a little bit more. Just try to take out some of that utility after what Star-Lord did to Sabretooth. And I mean, in a game like this, especially when Star-Lord can get the right symbiote, he can really start ramping up and do some scary things. So we got another big attack coming on, spending the power to get the extra dice once again, with a nice solid hit, and Star-Lord once again really failing to do much in the way of defense, putting him down at the start of round 2. So already at the start of this round, we've already had 2 leaders put down, ASM and Star-Lord, and it definitely kind of impacts the way the game is played for the rest of it. So yeah, and then what we got is we have some other abilities that we got kicking around on Sabretooth. I think Alex starts looking around whether or not he wants to pounce at her or throw something at her, or checking distance on a whole bunch of things. And in this case, he checks to see if he has a throw in on Valkyrie. Which he does, so Valkyrie just kind of gets yeeted over into the garbage truck there. Once again, just taking an extra little bit of damage. That's the other thing we see a lot of in this game. We see a lot of attempts to nickel and dime. So, well, that brings us to the Guardians, and of course it's going to be a Valkyrie activation, simply because if she doesn't, Laura is probably going to go and clean her up. So just walking over there to deal with X-23, who routinely punches well above her weight, and even Valkyrie is not immune to that sort of punching. So I believe we have a Warrior of Legend kicking around here. Decent hit with 3, and X-23 remembering at this point, but unfortunately really not getting the dice. Once again, Alex's dice were just kind of mean to him for the early parts of this game. So X-23 just takes a good beating to the face on that one from Valkyrie, who did maybe she didn't do a Warrior Legend. Maybe she just did a charge in just to get the double tap. Yeah, because here's the next attack right here. But with a whole bunch of extra power, there's some extra stuff going on here. I think this is where the Warrior of Legend probably kicks in, with 3 successes so far. And Laura, at least this time, remembering once again, and at least getting some decent defense with a reroll, blocking 2 of the 3 successes. Although if Warrior of Legend kicked in, maybe not, because I'm not seeing Jason swap that dice around. So just doing some really solid damage to Laura and X-23 in this case. So and then just throwing her away, which we quickly correct in that Valkyrie has the size 2 throw, not the size 3 throw, which Lord does kind of size 3 because of adamantium skeleton. So instead opts to throw a car at her, which obviously, not a bad option there. And once again, just not really getting those defensive dice, and just really kind of hurting Alex throughout the course of the game. Guardians just eating the Weapon X lunch, as it were. So, and during this time, obviously, like we're all having discussions on who to be targeting and whatnot. And as of right now, like it's kind of paired into like Alex and Jason against Reed and I, and we're just trying to figure out what's going on. X-23's gone down, so obviously drawing a new card here, and we get the Riot onto Valkyrie, which extra dice for attacks, good for her, but dealing an extra little point of damage to her. But with Sabretooth already activated in the next 23 days, there's not really a whole lot going on up there. It's a pretty safe move for Valkyrie to do. Moving back to the Hellfire Club, and we have in this case Rogue going, And she's actually just going to set up a charge to go after that Clintar beacon, as well as maybe punch Gwen. So up she goes. And at this point, in an effort to protect Gwen, whether accurately or not, I make use of Spider Tracker. I pay the cost and just get off the truck, out of line of sight, just making it so I don't have to deal with a big punch by Gwen or by Rogue. Whether or not it was the right decision, I'm not entirely sure, because basically it just means that Rogue can turn around and really hammer into Miles instead. With a fairly solid attack, right? Like getting 4 successes right off the hop, and then my defensive roll just being kind of bad with 1 success and not really converting a lot. I think in this case. Oh no, I did convert another one. Okay, so I did block 2 of the 4 damage coming in, but given that she still has power to do more attacks, she has actions to do more more attacks. She can do her mutant absorption, and on top of all that, poisoning Miles. He does not have a very good turn in this particular instance, because she also did get powered up a nice chunk from the what's it called, the attack from Miles earlier in the game as well. So she grabs the Clintar beacon. So what that does is basically you score an additional victory point for every symbiote you happen to control. So that's a lot of extra symbiotes. And here she just rolls obscene amounts of violence into, this is the mutant absorption, I think, into Miles, which just saps what little power he has, and just ends up dummying him a little bit. Not a whole lot that can really be done against that when Rogue wants to get going. Yep. And then we have finally a truck being thrown as well, just to get that extra. I think at this point there was like 1 damage left on Miles. So just throwing that truck, and yeah, I think with Miles I need to get like 4 successes in order to survive it. And he goes down. He drops his he doesn't have a symbiote to drop. And this is one of the points of confusion we had. We weren't entirely sure if the guns ever get dropped here. So if we played that wrong, obviously, like, people can sound off in the comments and let us know. But yeah, so the Hellfire Club at this point is just dummied most of the Web Warriors. Which brings me to Gwen here, and not a whole lot I really can do. So she just kind of, at first I kept thinking that she had a web swing, which she clearly does not. That's just one of the problems with going back and forth from characters from time to time. So yeah, once we get all that sorted, she just rolls up long, and I believe she attempts to punch Emma, because I think Emma is very low on health at the moment. But basically going in and failing to do most of anything. Well, now I'm actually starting to wonder what I'm doing going on here. Yeah, we're back to the weird whether or not I got the web swing there. Yeah, so a lot of poor decisions. A lot of poor decisions based off having not used the character for a little while there. So you get to bear with me on all my dumb decisions and having 3 other guys call me out on it in the middle of the game. Perfect. But it's always good when that happens. So anyway, now we finally decide we've just moved up. We're doing a punch. We do a little bit of damage, and on account of having moved as well, she does get to activate, not activate, but she does get to take advantage of her additional move, which, now that I'm looking at it, I feel like I probably got wrong here. So, but it wouldn't be the first time I've gotten a couple errors kicking around here. And I mean, if we miss something, obviously hit it up in the comments. It's always important for us to know here. Partly what I'm doing here, though, is I'm setting up a venue for Logan to get into the fight against the Hellfire Club as well, which is a very important thing. Because as it is, the Web Warriors aren't winning that fight on their own. Logan would have to make 2 move actions to really get where he needs to be, whereas this way he can kind of do an attack against Gwen and followed up by a place by another attack. So that's exactly what he's doing. So he grabbed a new symbiote. He rolls an obscene amount of damage into Gwen, because that just seems to be what happens in this game. Like six damage into Gwen is just absolutely rude, followed by no defense whatsoever. So I get, like, my entire team just gets dummied in this round, and I end up going ahead and scoring no points this round because everyone is dazed. Nobody's securing anything. But keeping in fine fashion, we're throwing another symbiote close within range of Reed in order to get him to take some more damage on Domino and flip out those symbiotes quite a bit. I was not joking when I said that this happens a lot. We end up swapping it a lot, and Domino gets Sleeper, which is just a mystic attack with Flight, I think it is, and then Logan just gets placed. He's got all the power in the world to do a whole bunch of things here. And if I recall correctly, I think he's about to roll into a Tornado Claw on top of all that. Because he's got a great opportunity to do so with 3 prime targets just kicking around there. I think at this point, just some strategy being talked about. Because at this point, like, Reed is in a very strong position. Like, he had a whole bunch of symbiotes. He's secured that area down there. Yeah, so we got the Tornado Claw going on. I believe he starts against Emma. And not a whole lot going on. Like, once again, unfortunately, Alex's defense dice just are struggling to kind of show up here. So he doesn't quite, he's not quite as impactful as he was hoping to be here. But then he follows up into Rogue, I think it is. And once again, the dice just aren't really showing up. Not a whole lot going on. And then finally he has one last attack that goes into Domino here. The other catch was between the damage reduction on Rogue and then for a lot of the game, Domino having that damage reduction symbiote, it was hard to take Reed down. And then finally, we get a fairly solid attack, but Reed, of course, gets just an outstanding defense dice here. Oh, maybe this one's against Rogue because he added some crits here. Maybe it was Domino into Rogue into Emma. Maybe that's what it was. Once again, always kind of tricky. Yeah, I think that's what it was because I think he wanted to end on the point and be in a great position for a whole bunch of other things there. I believe that's what was going on here. We'll see where Logan gets placed in just a moment, as we're all figuring out what's going on with the action and the game here. And throughout the course of it, I think at one point, like, Reed's in the lead and Jason goes in the lead, and at one point we're all thinking that Alex is probably going to be getting some benefits of a whole bunch of stuff. Like, it was really interesting to see how everything kind of went back and forth in this game. Yeah, so Logan ends up placing in, like, he's about to place anyway and grab Mania, which is it's a long move for Logan, which, I mean, it's not bad. It's not a bad thing. It's not amazing, but a lot of the really good symbiotes have been drawn at this point. But that pretty much brings us to the end of Logan's activation and Weapon X for that matter. They have no one else to activate. Same with these Web Warriors. So going into Jason's turn here, he just has Rocket and Groot left to do things. And I think Rocket just moves up just to take some pot shots into the Hellfire Club, who, once again, they have their little castle there, and it's just trying to knock it down because they're starting to get a really solid command of the game and their points. So just I believe, is this the Hadron Enforcer that he's thrown here? I can't remember. Yeah, it looks like it's the Hadron Enforcer, just so he can do a little bit of extra damage. But he fails to get the trigger, so nobody's getting sucked in. And then once again, just a really solid defensive roll. Like, just Reed's defensive rolls were just on point, and it was just getting really tough to knock him out and actually do anything of real value to it all. Even with the winging it token rerolls, just still not adding to that with the trigger on there. Still a solid chunk of damage, all things considered, but when the defense rolls are doing just as good. And then you add on damage reduction. And then we have Groot, the last activation. Just moving on up, getting into position. There was some discussion as to whether or not he should do some more stuff there, but he chose not to. Going into round 4, the state of the board's changed considerably. The order of activations have really changed. Kicking around here simply because people have gotten dazed and they're confused, and like all the web warriors are injured, and a good chunk of the Hellfire Club has been injured at this point. And a good chunk of Weapon X has been injured at this point as well. Reed has not lost his priority yet, though, which is kind of a big one. And just dealing up the points here, like there was no points scored by the Web Warriors, a bunch scored by everyone else, though. And this is also where we kind of catch where the Carnage Paint the Town Red doesn't quite have the great impact that we had in that it heals, but starts off with Emma going into Logan hard, who tries to remember here. With just a 5-dice strike, which just does all the damage in the world, which is insane. And once again, the dice just not showing up, unfortunately for Alex on this one, forcing Logan just to take a good chunk of damage to it all. Now, thankfully, he doesn't have any of his allied characters around, so nobody's really exploding into it. But he does get the wild throw beforehand as well. Which is just going to toss Logan back, and I believe hit ASM here. Yeah, just deal a little bit of extra damage to ASM, because that's what always ends up happening to poor Pete. He just ends up getting punched a lot. But Emma is also not done in this case. Like, this is the early game was just so heavily dominated by Reed. It was insane. Like, at this point in the game, we're all kind of looking at him, because I think he's like up to 9 points or something like this, whereas Jason's at like 7. I'm still at 1, and Alex, I think it was at like 2, like 3 or 4 or something like that. I wish I could remember exactly. But yeah, so here we go. He's going into Logan again with a defenestrate, with a hands off, and Logan just can't defend against it. Like that's just 8 dice Mystic going into Logan, and that's just bam. Knocking him out. You can see a little adjustment there. Get thrown. Oh, that's right. The first attack was the movement, not the throw. So the second attack was the throw. That's right. And there we go. I'm blocking 2 of the 4 damage going into Spidey from this throw from the hands off. And of course, Logan is down, which is gonna hopefully move Alex a little bit further up in the priority tracker. Get him some earlier moves here. But yeah, a whole lot of damage going on here. And then, of course, Paint the Town Red triggers, throwing 5 dice into Miles. And at this point, he at least has some reroll capabilities, I believe. But either way, doing an extra little bit of damage here by getting that trigger and just moving Miles away. Basically, Reed's whole strategy is just have his little castle, score his points, keep everyone away from him. And unfortunately, it resulted in everyone just kind of looking at him and kind of trying to narrow in and take him out. So this is where we get the correction of the Paint the Town Red, that it doesn't actually heal Emma, which was a friggin' godsend, because at the start of the round, there was also a patch up that occurred. Domino patched up on Rogue just to kind of keep her a little bit safer, because she had taken a whole bunch of damage after everything we tried to do. So that brings us into the Web Warriors, I believe. And just taking a look at what's going on here. Or is this somehow Jason moved ahead of us? Don't recall. Yeah, I guess somehow Jason moved ahead of us and got to activate someone. No, it was Web Warriors. Okay. No, I guess we were handling something else there. Oh, I think it was from the symbiote that Miles dropped. Yeah, so Spidey does a web swing in and just trying to get some extra dice through the Spider Strike and whatever a Spider can into the Hellfire Club here. And as you can see, my typical Parker luck shows up in this instance, and I still fail to get those triggers. But just checking to see if there's anything worthwhile with pulling a symbiote, because obviously Pete doesn't have one. So just seeing if we get a good symbiote in there and just gets that sleeper one. And then we just throw the big 7 dice strike, Spider Strike into Emo. failing to get the momentum off, which would have been amazing because with momentum I probably could have taken off somebody else as well. But unfortunately, Pete just always kind of fails at that one. Needing that wild crit trigger always seems to elude me for whatever reason, even when I'm throwing all the dice in the world. Just following up with a whatever a spider can, because I got the power to do so. Nice big attack. Definitely got a nice big attack. And at this point, what we do is we trigger his thing. We basically get rid of that bus stand right there and just toss it into Emma as well, causing the collision damage. So now she no longer has her cover. Oh, are we tossing something else? No, we end up tossing that. That's right. Oh, that's right. I wanted to check to see if I could destroy something in the terrain of size 3 or not, and I was looking at that DHL truck, but it did not happen. I think at this point, I want to say we finally take Emma down. I think we did. Between the collision damage from the bus shelter and the decent strike from the whatever spider can, then I also get the movement, so just getting out of dodge. Because I mean, I'm not going to hold that point right there. I'm injured. There's more people. Okay, so I guess I don't take down Emma in this instance. And then of course, just checking a bunch of ranges on things, seeing what some future options are for Pete. And then moving back up to the top end of the map, we got Weapon X, and we got the Guardians of the Galaxy still kind of dueling it out. And Alex just ends up pulling another Scream, which unfortunately comes back to haunt him quite a bit in this game. I believe he does get some good use out of it at some point, but it's when you look at all the other symbiotes that are being pulled, it kind of feels bad that we keep seeing that one come up. The Scream and Lasher just seem to be the ones that felt like they were a bit of the booby prize whenever we'd see them hit the table. So this is X-23 just kind of figuring out what's gonna be happening here, and just doing the claw rush attack with a really solid set of dice here. Good set of defense dice as well, and I want to say she's going into Star-Lord. I want to say. I don't remember exactly, but I think it's got to be Star-Lord that she's going into at this point, just to take him off the table, and just throw in a whole bunch of dice to do it. Get rid of those winging it tokens. So with the assassin training reroll, 4 more successes going in, and just all skulls, just done. Star-Lord is just he can't put up can't plucky attitude it, and he just gets knocked off the table by X-23, which is it's a big win for Alex up here. He needed a little bit of extra support up there. Now he's just dealing with Valkyrie, who admittedly is still a big problem. But anyway, so now Laura gets to trigger her frenzy, and just stacking all her advances, and she's just moving over to get closer to the rest of the fight, because we do recognize that both Reed and Jason are the primary players in contention for winning at the moment. So just moving into a position, and then throws another attack. I think this one's into Valkyrie as well. Yeah, this one's into Valkyrie with decent defense, but getting those pierces off and everything like that. Like he's really chewing through the Guardians up there, and that's what a good lore turn can always do. It's always kind of exciting to see X-23 jump off and do the things that she is very good at doing. I don't believe it's enough to take Valkyrie out at this point. No, it's not. So she just has a whole bunch of power and becomes a very easy activation for Jason at this point, who is also staring down the barrel of a Sabretooth. At this point in the game, I think like Jason was poised to start taking a much more commanding lead in the game. Simply because a lot of people were really starting to focus on Reed. A lot of characters got injured and wounded from him, and Guardians were in a position to really come back and try and take it. So yeah, she's throwing just a big Dragon Fang attack into Sabretooth, and as you can see, like just gets an obscene amount of successes here, like just an obscene amount, and a decent response though by Sabretooth. So as you can see, like the rolls for Alex are starting to really come back in this game. They're starting to even out a little bit, which is really good. From getting dummied very early on to actually seeing some of the curve hit. It's always really good when that happens. And then, of course, we're adding extra dice on this because of that riot symbiote that she has. And then just a follow-up 5-dice strike attack into Sabretooth. And once again, a moderately successful defensive roll here. And I can't remember if this is the point that he opts to exceptional heal or not, to reduce the damages. Wish I could remember. Once again, it's the pitfalls of not having the original audio and not having taken notes at the time of, because didn't think I was going to need them. So instead, you guys get to hear me drone on for the length of this video. So, and then he did get the flurry on one of those, I think the first one was the flurry, and then we had this one, just a regular attack. So just a whole bunch of damage into Sabretooth to try and get some work done on him and, save Valkyrie a little bit. And I believe there was a throw that happened there. I think that's what happened, was a throw. I honestly don't recall. And we move back to the Hellfire Club here. And at this point, I forgot about that. I used all webbed up as well on the previous turn, just to make my subsequent attacks a little bit better. I probably should have used it earlier on. Probably could have done a little bit more damage here. But anyway, yeah, so going on to it. So Rogue is just moving slow at this point, just slowing down her charges, making her a little bit less efficient. She just rolls on up over here, and at this point, I'm expecting her to go hard into ASM, but instead, she opts to just punch Gwen really hard, who really does not show up at all. So just takes a bunch of damage into Gwen at this point. And she's poised to also, have a lovely throw here as well, and because there's a great size 3 DHL truck kicking around, and she's just got all the options in the world to figure out what to do. And yep, there's the truck right there, going into Gwen. Decent dodge roll from Gwen, still taking 2 damage. I think it was 2 from the attack and 2 from this, so she's only got 1 left. And it's not going to be hard for her to take Gwen out. I believe this is actually where Gwen does go down for the count. At this point, I just don't remember what the final act is, whether or not it's a mutant absorption or if it's something else that happens. We got a whole bunch. So we got a. Okay, that's what it is. It's the big old Southern Hospitality attack going into ASM, who then does a fairly decent job at blocking a bunch of damage, but gets thrown into Gwen, and Gwen ends up taking that last point of damage. Almost survives it. One more success, and she would have been fine. But that one failure takes Gwen off the table, and a really good turn for Rogue in this instance. But leaving the Web Warriors in a really rough position. Like, all I got left is Miles at the end of this round here. Whereas everyone else is, I guess Jason is feeling a little bit as well. So anyway, Miles then responds. He does a web swing over to there, and I believe we start off with his strike, his webline kick into Rogue, I think it is. Once again, just kind of figuring out position, best options, all that sort of stuff. He also has the energy gun as well, which has that great beam attack. Yeah, so in this case, we're just because it's the all webbed up, and then it's the kick. So yeah, we're throwing a whole bunch of dice here. Not quite getting exactly what I want here, but just trying to do what I can. Throws her back into Domino. Just trying to get that chip damage wherever is humanly possible. Domino just not rolling a good defense roll at all, but getting that skull. And I can't remember if Domino still has the damage reduction at this point or not from the symbiote. But either way, like it's a good throw into Domino. And then we're dropping some symbiotes here. Yeah, so Rogue did end up going down, dropped the Clintar beacon and the symbiote. That was the big scary thing as well. Because of that Clintar beacon and that little castle, Reed was able to just score up so many points from the symbiotes there. Just scoring that extra victory point per symbiote. And just popping that one off. And Emma taking a little bit of damage and having a new symbiote put on her. And then we got the big beam attack from the fusion caster gun. I can't remember what it's called. Energy blast gun of some sort. But just a big 5 dice attack with the extras from the all webbed up turn, just making some really good efficiency here. And as you can see, I started just rolling some great dice on this one. Like really solid. Like there's 5 successes right there, and just wish I could remember who I was going into on this first one. Oh, must have been Emma, because she is about to drop a symbiote. She just goes, yep, right up over there. So Emma finally gets injured, gets dazed and injured, and then we got one final attack that should be going into Domino at this point. And this might be where Domino finally bites it. No, Domino just rolled like a beast all friggin' game. I don't know what was up with that. It was frustrating to say the least. I mean, I know Web Warriors isn't the punchiest team to begin with, but when you're dealing with that level of shenanigans, brings us back to the Are we on the? No, we're not on the Guardians. We're at. It looks like we're playing around with Sabretooth at this point, just throwing Valkyrie back, just having her collide with the Daily Bugle. At this point, I think she only had 1 health left. Yeah, which causes her to drop the symbiote. And this one we just kind of yeet into the backfield. Just nothing of real interest there. Just have a symbiote. I think we even forget about this one over the course of the game as well. But it takes Valkyrie out of the equation for a little bit. Sabretooth ends up moving up and just starts trying to go to town against the rest of the Guardians here. In a really solid position to do so, and because at this point, like I don't see a path to victory myself, and Alex is kind of lagging a little bit behind. So both of us are kind of looking at Reed and Jason and trying to figure out what we can do to try and damage him. Unfortunately, Rocket being immune to collision damage, no pounds going on there, and unfortunately a roll that just didn't quite pop through. But still, no defenses on that one, because I believe he did take it on Rocket in this case. So a little bit of damage goes through. Not a whole lot of damage goes through, but a little bit goes through. And just trying to figure out what the next best play is. Trying to figure out what all our paths to victory actually are in this instance. Because it's getting murkier and murkier the whole time. I believe at this point Sabretooth is just pouncing himself away to grab the Clintar beacon, so he can start scoring some extra points for the 2 symbiotes that he has on his person. So here we go. Board state is changed considerably at this point. Like a lot of really big pieces have been knocked down. A lot of good tech pieces have been knocked down. That brings us to the Guardians, and I think at this point it's really just both Rocket and Groot that have to go. I think everyone else has done what they need to do, and I believe this is the point where Jason throws out the deadly duo to throw a whole bunch of dice just to try and deal with Reed, who is his biggest competitor at the moment. So unfortunately though, this deadly duo, with all the dice he ends up throwing, it just, as you can see, like it just doesn't do a whole lot, unfortunately. So this one goes into Sabretooth there. And then we have a final attack from the deadly duo. It's just once again, like the dice just didn't show up for this one. Because I think this one was into Laura as well. Because I think it was like Laura, Sabretooth, and then I believe Domino was the last one. I Yeah, I think Domino was the last one. I don't exactly remember. Um, the best part is that everyone's ignoring ASM at this point because I've just been such a non-factor in the game. So just yeah, another really disappointing roll. And he was he was trying to fish for some power to get a Hadron Enforcer in there as well. And you would think with all those dice that he threw that somewhere along the line he would have gotten at least something. But the defense dice were just saying no, and a lot of the attack dice just weren't like even when he was rolling well for the attack dice, it just wasn't really doing much. So, but that does finally get Domino off the table. Took a whole bunch of attacks, but Domino was finally removed, and she never did get to shoot off the game. She just she was constantly a concern for a lot of us, and she took a lot of punishment, and but she had a very small impact on the game otherwise, which was kind of interesting. Like for all those resources just for just to do just to get Domino off. But it also just brings us to Groot as well, who just basically he's moving up and getting into position for future turns at this point. There's not a whole lot that's happening. He doesn't even really have much need to do a lot of. I think he does do some healing along the way because Groot has taken a little bit of damage, but he does get an attack off. I think this is into Sabretooth. Yeah, this is into Sabretooth. And I think this might be where Sabretooth bites the bucket. I think that attack was just a little bit too much. Oh, that's right. He did his pounce because that's the symbiote he had on him. So he got a little bit of extra movement by doing a pounce and allows him to do a double tap. He had all the power to do a whole bunch of great attacks in there. And once again, back into, I'm pretty sure, into Sabretooth, who's just, once again, not rolling the defensive dice. And yeah, Apex Predator ends up going down. Clintar Beacon and a symbiote have to get placed at this point. Alex is effectively been removed from contention at this point with X23. Like it's purely an attrition game at this point for them if they want to do anything. And I mean, it is very possible. X23 can definitely punch way above her weight there. So there we go. The Clintar Beacon just getting pushed back to the Web Warriors, who basically are viewed as a non-threat going on with this instance. They're just not scoring points. I think I'm at 2 points at the moment. It's ridiculous. I think at some point like Jason ends up at like 13 points as we go into an end of a round here. And it just the whole board state like this one turn was just so bonkers with how everything changed and adjusted, and trying to see what would happen with the whole thing. Just checking some extra ranges here, and I believe he at this point throws I want to say root. Yeah, he throws a root down onto X23. And that pretty much brings us to the end of the round. So once again, like the Web Warriors aren't scoring very much. I think this is their 0 turn here. The Hellfire Club I think is scoring like no points because everyone's dazed. The Guardians I think are scoring like 1, 2, 3 points I believe. And Weapon X is scoring 1 point. So like very low scoring game, but at this point like the tides have shifted. Moving into the 4th round, priority has shifted around a lot at this point as well. Jason's still not getting his first activation. I think simply because he keeps going last because of his all his guys. But first thing we got to do is we have some goo to move around, starting with the priority. So like Reed moves some goo around, and he just opts to kind of move that one further away. Then it shifts to the next player, so I get to move the next little bit of goo here, and I actually move it up close to I can't remember if it was Rocket or Group, but I moved up to one of them to force a little bit of extra damage and get a card off someone. And yeah, they pull another Lasher. I think it's onto Group. So, and then of course Reed takes his actual turn and starts off with Rogue, who's been a menace this whole game. She's just been so good with everything, getting the damage in, getting the throws in, getting the control. It's just been fantastic. So she just goes in hard, throws just basic 5 dice, and in this case, it's the energy attack into Groot. And I think at this point, Groot does he get dazed? I don't quite recall, but basically throwing some dice into Groot, who has been a bit of an issue. So we got a second attack coming in, some more damage. Yeah, there we go. So that's 4 successes into Groot. I think this time Groot gets dazed and drops a lasher. Yeah. So there we go. The charge goes in, drops Groot finally, who hadn't really been taking a whole lot of damage, but had a very impactful turn last round. And then we just drop the symbiote here, and I believe can't remember if it's Logan that picks it up or if it's somebody else that picks it up. I think it's Logan that ends up getting it. And then we got the Web Warriors here, and I'm just gonna play defensively at this point. At first thought I was thinking like go grab the Clintar Beacon and then hide, but Miles isn't making any attacks, so grabbing the Clintar Beacon is kind of a dumb idea because that would actually just KO him. So basically we kind of retconned that a little bit. We just put the Clintar Beacon back, and we just decided to have Miles rock on back there, and just kind of be in relative safety, like just seeing what I can do to pick up some points here. And he picks up Mania. That one kept coming back to me quite a bit, frustratingly enough. So, and then we move over to Alex with X23 being the last one on the board for the Weapon X program, and just looking at Rocket. With Groot being dazed, it's perfect time to take out Rocket. And that is, I believe that is enough to take him out, or at least get close to it. But yeah, so that is enough to take out Rocket. It's not enough to put the symbiote within 1 of X23, which is a pretty important distinction actually, because she's not the happiest at the moment. So instead, what she does, because I think she did this with a claw rush, and I think she's triggering a frenzy off this as well, because that's going to allow the claw rush and the frenzy will allow her to basically move on over, secure the canister, and also be within range to take on Rogue, which will be a big thing, since Rogue has just been such a dominant force on the table. And just throwing a new symbiote down there onto Logan, I think it was. Yeah, so here's the medium movement from the claw rush. Getting her right into the thick of things. And this allows her to throw a 5 dice claw slash into Rogue, which is finally a really solid roll, like really good defense roll as well. On top of that, though, I believe I don't think there was the pierce, so only deals 1 point of damage. Rogue continues to be very difficult to get through in this particular game, but she does have 1 more attack available to her at this point. She's just picking up a new symbiote, seeing what she gets, and once again we see Scream kicking around here. We see Scream quite a bit. I think Lori gets her quite a bit. I guess that was it. Maybe there was no frenzy. Anyway, so Valkyrie just moves up, gets back to the beacon or the canister, and just gets in a position to score. So secures a thing and grabs Phage. And that's Valkyrie all done, bringing us back to the Hellfire Club. So Emma's figuring out what to do here, and she pulls a new symbiote. And she's got a lot of really good targets there. Well, not a lot, but she's got some good targets. She's got Logan right in front of her. I believe at this point, exceptional healing has been played. So I think what we have going on here, it's probably about, yeah, it's a hands off on onto Logan. Who, oh, maybe it's not a hands off onto Logan. Maybe it was something else. Either way, bunch of dice into Logan there, causing a little bit of damage, pinging X-23 for 1 as well. Emma was just a force in this entire game. Like she I don't think she had a single bad activation whenever she showed up. Her dice just always rolled what needed to be rolled. Got some good damage in and just kind of controlled a whole bunch of things. There was a couple really good instances of use of the Hellfire Club as well. Because at so many instances, like we just had symbiotes, was holding objectives, contesting things, so was always scoring power and health and everything like that. So here we are, just moving Logan a little bit closer, and because he got that wild trigger for the movement on there, the advance, and now we got another attack going into him, and just a violent attack, like 6 successes out of 8, and Logan just he can't put up against that one. I think at this point that is Logan removed from the table, I believe. Yeah, that's Logan gone at this point. Unfortunately, the exceptional healing had been burned a little bit earlier on, and of course we checked the throw happens before damage here, so he's just seeing what throw is worthwhile. I think even just checking to see where the symbiote drops as well. That might actually be what it is. The symbiote might be the dropping. Yeah, that's what it is. The symbiote drops. Rogue picks up a new one, and Logan has been removed from the table, leaving Alex with just X-23 at this point. And then just making sure, because I think she still has Carnage for Paint the Town Red. So I think she just kind of moves into position there. I can't remember exactly. Once again, all the fuzzy details here. So just, yeah, I think at this point we're kind of bartering and banking on what's going on here, and there is another attack coming in. This one into Laura. Yeah, so I think there was a Paint the Town Red, so there was a movement into another attack just to kind of get within range of Laura. And just do a little bit of extra damage into her. Yeah, that's what it was. She did the 2 attacks to take out Logan, triggered the Paint the Town Red, then moved a tiny little bit. And I believe at this point, it brings us to ASM's turn. And yeah, so here I am. I'm just doing an attack into Rogue, just because I want to be able to pick up the Clintar Beacon without being damaged. And there is some jockeying to see what exactly I need to do here. I believe what I end up needing to do is I need to spend 2 on the web swing to get up there to take the Clintar Beacon, and get within range of that canister and finally get another symbiote, because I can hold a gun and a symbiote. And of course we push a symbiote off, and we throw toxin onto. What did we throw toxin onto? Or maybe he just pulled. Maybe I just pulled toxin. Maybe that's what it was. Then we have a slight correction on everything we're going to do. So what we do is, like, we have the web swing and then just a final movement just to get up there and contest, because Valkyrie is also injured. So just slowing Jason's ability to score down. And that pretty much brings us to the end of the round. Like at this point, I actually pick up, I think it was like 5 points. Reed picked up 2 points, I think. Jason was all days except for Valkyrie, so I think he only picks up 2 points, and X-23 picks up, I think, 2 points. But it actually puts the Web Warriors back into the game at 7 points. moving into the final rounds here, with Web Warriors having gone last, I've somehow lost all momentum that I had kicking around here. I think it pushed Alex into a first activation here, if I recall correctly. But basically, like the positioning at this point, like the game has changed focus so many times. So it's actually Jason going first and firing into Emma. It looks like with a big ol', I think that's the Hadron Enforcer, into another Hadron Enforcer there. Still not getting the wilds for it though, but dealing into Rogue. That's what it was. That's what it was. It was a whole bunch of attacks into Rogue to finally take her down, because she's just been causing so much problems in this game. So dropping that symbiote there, just seeing where it can go, who it can get picked up on. We realize that it can be placed in the terrain, so it gets picked up by Rocket. Then pulls, I believe that said Toxin. Then Rogue is finally removed from the table, and this was a big shift right here. Like Hellfire Club was dominating so much up until this point. Like it was just really hard to deal with them. And I mean, with one solid move, Jason just became a big threat on the table as well. So in response, we got the Hellfire Club going, and just throwing a whole bunch of dice into Groot, I believe it is. I don't remember where that other die was coming from. In some cases, I wish I could. I wish I had taken some more notes on this one. But basically, throwing a whole bunch of dice into Jason, who's now essentially the front runner of the game. He's at this point in the game, I believe he's sitting at 13 out of 16 points, and he needs to be dealt with. So we grab a new symbiote, which I believe is Lasher. Nobody wants Lasher, and we have another attack going in. And I think this one is this one the hands off? Don't quite recall. It's a lot of dice, so I think it's the hands off for 5 points of damage, and very decent defense roll right there. Only blocking 2 of it though, taking 3, but still enough to pick up and chuck someone, which can make a big difference at times. So just figuring out the best way to throw Groot there. And I think no matter what happens, just dinging into Laura, who's been taking a bit of a punishment all game, and just ends up taking 3 points of damage from that after having a big old tree thrown into her. Groot takes another point of damage, still standing though. But that does bring us to X-23's turn with a very damaged Groot and a very hurting Rocket at this particular point. And X-23 has a chance to really do what X-23 does. So just taking a look at some various options here, and starting with 4 dice. I don't know. Oh, this is the energy attack from Scream. So she's doing the beam attack into Scream here, which interestingly enough ends up, I believe it ends up just doing a big number actually. Because there's 4 successes into Groot, who only has the 2 energy, or maybe this is into, I don't know what's going on at this point. But yeah, it's enough to actually take Groot off the table, which really kind of a big deal there. Groot had proven a force in the last 2 rounds, and X-23 came up and was able to get quite a bit of work done on that one. And I believe at this point she triggers Frenzy as well, just to get over there, and then looking at Rocket and just looking to take Jason off the table completely at this point. Throwing a, I think it's gonna be the, oh yeah, just a strike, but with 3 successes before the reroll going on there. 4 successes, yeah. So it's enough to do a little bit into Rocket, but with Rocket not having a whole lot of health and that being triggered off a frenzy, we do get another attack. This one's the 6 dice claw rush attack. And I think at this point, Rocket just blanks out at this point, and just gets demolished, taking Jason mostly off the table. He just has Valkyrie left, which is not a lot. Like at this point, like attrition has played a giant role in this game. Now, where things get kind of funny with this one is because of the way everything happens, the Rocket who had a symbiote now drops the symbiote, and the person to the left of the active player gets to determine where that symbiote goes. So Reed starts looking around and realizes that X-23 only has 1 stamina remaining. So if the symbiote gets dropped within range 1 of Laura, bam, that's her last point of health as well. So Laura inadvertently killed herself by doing so, which was it was one of the more interesting moments of the game. So we have Miles walking on up over here and getting within range 2 with a web swing, and we actually we throw a venom blast into Valkyrie at this point, just looking to make her drop the symbiote more than anything else because she's got the parting shot symbiote. So I get 1 attempt at this. So we throw 7 dice. Oh, only 7 dice. We definitely get the thing we need, but we get a really big spike, and Valkyrie just doesn't show up with her defense. And unfortunately for Valkyrie, like that does basically just shoot her right off the table, which was a really unexpected result from Miles. I wasn't anticipating to actually get that to happen. Who then ends up picking up Mania once again. And Valkyrie is gone, as effectively taking Jason out of contention. And then Miles just goes up and sits on the objective, and that just leaves ASM left wandering over here. And it was at this point we kind of realized, oh goodness, like because everyone's been taken off the board, Web Warriors are actually in a position to win this because they're effectively scoring 6 points this round. Reed is only scoring 2 points this round. And the breakdown is, I think this puts me up to like 13 points, and it puts Reed up to like 12 or something. So we move some goo around. We go into a final round for it, and just to play it out and see what happens. In this case, that goo just whatever. We don't care about that goo at that point. And not really a whole lot going on. Emma begins the final round. I think she does like sort of like a last ditch effort to see what's going on here. She pulls a new symbiote up to see what's going to be pulled here. Unfortunately, some people had wandered off, forcing the person with the camera to do this. And unfortunately, it's Ray's, which is not really going to do what she needs it to do. So she gets 1 shot to see if anything of real interest can happen here. So she moves on up, and she gets within range of Pete there and takes a pot shot at him. Because I think if you can force the attrition, I believe it forces another round, and finally getting some spider sense rerolls here, taking a bunch of damage. I believe this leaves Pete at like 2 health remaining, or something like that along the way. Not quite enough, but it is enough to advance him away, which just it makes it a little bit more difficult for me to try and get the lull win of pure aggression. So here we go. We web swing in, and we take a pot shot into Emma, who finally transforms into her diamond form after this whole game. But very, very well timed. Basically kept the attrition from being the final factor of the game here, and just moving her in such a way, like trying to place her in such a way that Miles won't be able to get a lot of opportunity into her as well. Because I think at this point Emma only has like 2 health remaining or something, or I leave her on 2 health remaining. I get very close to taking out Emma with the Web Warriors here. So yeah, so Emma is placed, and dice get rolled, and not a whole lot, but really good defense roll by Emma in this case, and that pretty much takes me out of range, which just leaves Miles to do his thing. Yeah, so Pete just kind of moves back, takes the point. And yeah, then Miles more or less. I guess I do kind of. That's right, because Miles has mania at the moment, so he just rolls on up with his nice long move, and then he does a web swing to get a good web line kick into Emma here. Just going for that last attempt at at winning by attrition in separation anxiety. And I mean, it's an okay roll, but the defense rolls just continue to be hot for Emma at this point. Effectively bring us to the end of the game. I wasn't able to take them out, but as a joke here, I somehow baited everyone into winning as the Web Warriors. Like, just so much attrition. Like, we started off with 13 models on the table, and we're just ending with just 3. 2 of which being Web Warriors. Like, who saw that one coming after the very early stages of the game here? So just an absolutely bonkers game, moving back and forth. And we're going to get into a bit of a discussion about this in the after action report. But yeah, the final score I think ended up putting the Web Warriors up to like 18 or 19 points, and just crazy end there.